Welcome to the Napo podcast. CAFCASS asks its staff how they're really feeling about work, and the answers should concern everyone. In this episode, we're joined by Family Court Sections Adam and Nicki as we break down the findings and discuss what needs to change. So CAFCASS have published the results of their staff survey. What are the main points and concerns that came out of that survey?
So the survey had more than 1,600 responses, including 1,237 responses from social work staff in CAFCASS. And it came back with some positives, like on empowerment, professional judgment, job satisfaction, but it also highlighted major issues with workloads and pay, issues that Napo has been pushing and campaigning on for some time, and a startling number of staff also responded reporting bullying and harassment at work as well.
How did the results of CAFCASS's survey compare with that of our own?
So our own survey at the end of last year, which didn't have as great a reach as CAFCASS survey, it showed that most family court advisors, guardians and managers, assistant service managers are working over their contracted hours. They're accruing toil without taking it or even recording it, and have workloads well above what they consider safe. Now, when we published our results and informed CAFCASS, we encouraged them to run the same or similar questions in their staff survey. They didn't, so we don't have the picture that we really should have of the workloads crisis. But what CAFCASS's survey does show is that out of 1,237 social work staff, 52% said they need their contracted hours to be respected and sustainable, and 54% said that their work-life balance still needs to be maintained. And 68%, over 2/3, said having the resources to do their roles was a challenge. Now, if CAFCASS had raised more detailed questions, they could have understood these workload and work-life balance issues better, but we also find it particularly concerning that in the online staff meeting presenting the survey findings, CAFCASS CEO Jackie Tiotto said she's not sure what the answer is to resolve workload pressures.
I think that up and down the country, there are several teams where traditionally they've done either private or public law work, and practitioners are being told that they need to do both. We've had quite a lot of concern from members saying that they're just expected to start and proceed to do the new area of work. And some members have told us that they haven't done that other area of work for some in excess of 10 years. So we have asked that some training be put on for these staff, not just some e-learning, but some meaningful training by staff to seek support by requesting situational supervision from their assistant service manager or their service manager in this situation.
You mentioned about the survey, CAFCASS's survey, not having detailed enough questions. Do you think that they were potentially quite vague on purpose, knowing what the survey might uncover?
I think we could definitely say it's beneficial for them to not have all the details put out. And that's why some of the things that we've asked for in the past, for example, a full proper time and motion study for a transparent way for staff to record the accruing of toil. These are all things that CAFCASS have refused to bring in or have delayed implementing. We've for a long time been calling for a workload measurement tool, and CAFCASS have never rejected that, but they also haven't exactly prioritized getting on with that job. And I think it's fair to say that if those were in place, they would show very clearly the scale of overworking in CAFCASS, of staff doing far more than they should be, of practitioners doing far more work than they should be doing in terms of work-life balance and in terms of what is actually safe for practice.
The issue of hours that staff are working could quite easily be monitored by CAFCASS senior management securing the data from the IT department. I routinely see in evenings colleagues of mine working, and those who are doing public law work find themselves reeling out of control of their diaries when, in the lead up to a conclusion of care proceedings, the local authority file their evidence late. Everyone has a responsibility to refer back to the court where there's any non-compliance with any direction of the court. But our members go above and beyond, working late into the night or over a weekend in order that they can file their final evidence, which comes in right at the end of proceedings and before the IRH or a final hearing. So if the wheels have come off at the stage that our report is filed, the hearing cannot go ahead. And I know that over many years, this is a continuous problem of the local authority filing their evidence late. Our time goes out of our diary for our final inquiries, telephone calls, interviews, time with the child, in readiness for preparing our final report.
So with all of that being said, what are we saying is the answer to achieve safe and sustainable workloads?
So when we sent our own survey results into CAFCASS, we asked for them to carry out a time and motion study for practitioners and management, for that to inform a functionable and realistic workload measurement tool, for CAFCASS to implement a transparent way for staff to record the accruing of toil, and to encourage all staff to take their own toil and ask managers to encourage the same thing. And crucially, we call on CAFCASS to seek extensive additional funding from the Ministry of Justice to ensure that workloads can be brought down to the levels that staff consider to be safe. We also called on the Ministry of Justice, the Cabinet Office, and the Treasury to ensure that CAFCASS has the funding necessary to be fully staffed by staff who can work no more than 37 hours a week full-time and hold a safe workload. Now, at the time, CAFCASS ignored or rejected all of these, not even the easier requests like asking managers to encourage their staff to take their own toil. So it's frustrating for us, really, when CAFCASS leadership say they don't know the answers to workload issues, when we've already presented the answers to reduce workloads. CAFCASS ignored these, and now we have some 600 CAFCASS practitioners who have said they're concerned about workloads, work-life balance, and having the resources to actually do their roles.
And if I could just add in that alongside that, we have areas of the country where we are finding it extremely difficult to recruit new staff, and inordinate amounts of time of manager time are being spent in reviewing applications and arranging for staff interviews. Some teams are seeing managers repeatedly advertising and then interviewing, and sometimes not being able to recruit anyone because the applicants are not fitting the baseline criteria, usually that they don't have enough experience to come and work for us.
Pay was the second major issue highlighted in the survey. What do CAFCASS staff say about pay?
So CAFCASS' own report says, colleagues across all teams have told us that remuneration feels like it has fallen behind local authorities and the rising cost of living. Half of social work practitioners told us pay does not feel fair. This is the other major issue that Napo has campaigned on year after year. Twice in the last 5 years, we've gone into dispute with CAFCASS over pay. We've sought talks with ministers over this, and we have a record every year in our pay claims detailing how CAFCASS roles have been significantly devalued, how pay has become less competitive versus the local authorities who CAFCASS primarily recruits from, and how below inflation rises are harming our members' living standards and that of all staff. So the pay situation really deserves an episode on its own, but crucially, this issue and workloads are linked, and only a serious increase in funding for CAFCASS, including its pay packet, can possibly make wages more competitive and fair.
The final and very worrying outcome of the survey was a significant number of bullying and harassment cases. How did CAFCASS respond to that?
So 117 staff reported experiencing bullying and harassment. That's about 1 in 20 of all CAFCASS staff, and for us that's a major concern. Bullying and harassment in our view is absolutely intolerable. And while CAFCASS policy actually reflects that fairly well, I have to say the way CAFCASS has responded to their own survey findings here is not great. In CAFCASS' report, they say, "We're committed to understanding this better and having respectful conversations where these are needed," which does feel a bit of a mild commitment to over 100 staff reporting workplace bullying. But even more concerning was the response to the result made by Jackie Tiotto in the live meeting with staff. She said, "In some of the places where we're managing performance, people are interpreting that as being harassed and bullied. Napo members have already written to us angry at this belittling of bullying and harassment. bullying and harassment should not be even slightly tolerated in the workplace. And neither the comments by Jackie Tiotto nor the brief comments in CAFCASS written publication of the survey reinforces this. And half of the staff who responded saying they experienced this said they did not know how to raise bullying, yet neither Jackie Tiotto nor this written article gives staff advice or support on how to raise concerns. So that will only discourage staff from reporting experiences of bullying. So Napo is going to do CAFCASS' job for them. We'd encourage all staff to report any concerns about bullying and harassment, regardless of who it's from, regardless to whatever degree it's causing you distress. What you should do is tell your line manager or their manager if your line manager is causing bullying or harassment. Tell your union and keep a written record of every incident and when and where it happened. Even if it's something you consider to be minor, we encourage you, make a note of it and let a union rep know. And please read CAFCASS' employee relations policy on dignity at work. The policy itself is helpful, and it's a shame that CAFCASS did not take the opportunity to read.
Nicki, can I ask you, is bullying and harassment any of the cases that you've been, or any of the other reps have they seen a surge in that? Or
it's certainly a feature of some grievances that we have ongoing. We've spoken to CAFCASS about our concern that grievances are left to drift. They don't have deadlines built into the procedure. Staff need a certain level of internal resources in their reserve tank to take a grievance because they drag on for months. But yes, bullying and harassment has featured in those. I'm currently supporting someone who has resigned from work because of bullying and harassment. The review of sickness absence meetings continue to take place despite the fact that at an informal level, management don't accept that there has been any bullying. When comments made by management grades are entirely inappropriate and have directly led to this employee feeling they have no alternative but to resign from their post. This is someone who's been graded as good and later outstanding and has received consistently compliments and positive comment from barristers and judges about their work and their help in family court proceedings. And against the backcloth of our very real difficulty in recruiting social workers to family court advisor posts, it's a real concern that this is happening.
So what can CAFCASS staff, including Napo members, do to improve situations around pay, workloads and combat bullying?
So if you're not in a union already, do join us. The more staff that are in trade unions, the bigger collective voice we have to make a positive change for staff and improve pay and workloads. On workload specifically, we want staff to tell us about their workload situations. What we'd like to ask for is voice clips or written contributions, and let us know if you want it to be anonymous. Send them into Napo.
I would say speak to colleagues and fellow Napo members and ask us to convene a local meeting, either for just your team or for your team and neighbouring teams. And we can share information and pursue difficulties on behalf of our members.
Thanks for listening. If you work in CAFCASS and what you've heard today sounds familiar, don't stay silent. Speak to your local Napo rep. Share your experiences with us and encourage your colleagues to get involved. The stronger our collective voice, the stronger our case for fair pay, safe workloads, and workplaces where everyone is treated with dignity and respect.